posting it. I don't think I should be posting it because I don't even know how to delete the things when it's posted. But I do want to say that, um, wherever this might be residing, today is, um, December 2. You know, December 2, 2024. Just want to say that. Hope you guys aren't looking at the background and focusing on me, actually. And just wanted to say that there's new talks about what can we do to stop a Russian-backed regime that is the Trump administration. Um, because apparently some people have actually protested in the country of Georgia against Donald Trump as well, against Putin. I mean, against Russian-backed tyranny. What's going on in the puppet democracy of Georgia? Some would argue that the same thing is going on here in the U.S. with the Russian-backed, Russian-approved Trump administration. It is, I mean, it's not a secret that Donald Trump wants to unite the United States with Russia. It's not a secret that he has a favoritism with Russia, with Putin. Not that's why that he's actually tried to give him Ukraine like right over, and it was so obvious, not just in the 30 years of him trying to act like he wants to get in politics, but actually in his first administration, we saw exactly what he wants to do, which is disband the U.S. from NATO, leaving Ukraine, not even wanting Ukraine to join NATO, right? And then cutting off aid to Zelensky, with that threat, unless they bow out of NATO. Okay, this is exactly what what Putin is doing to Georgia as well. Is he has a puppet democracy that is also bowing out of NATO and doesn't want them. And again, it's Russian approved, presidency. You know what I mean, of a puppet democracy that is preventing them from joining NATO. Well, the people took to the streets because it is in their constitution, right? And they took to the streets to go against their presidential regime, that Russian-backed regime. And if you don't understand that Trump is also a Russian-backed regime, I mean, then you then I'm letting you know now. You know what I mean? But I said this yesterday. I said this yesterday. I said that half the stuff that also allowed him to win is the fact that they're Russian propaganda. Everybody knows that the hackers have been pushing Russian propaganda. But do you happen to understand that the reason why Trump won is because people like Joe Rogan, Logan Paul, all these people that are influencers supposedly, I can keep on going, like Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. I mean, all these other people that were backing him were actually pushing, in a way. Some of these people are also working for Russian propaganda, pushing that type of belligerent and nonsense out in the world. It's really ridiculous. No, it's ridiculous. Um, Even Candace Owens, you know what I mean? Like when they get into this MAGA craze and they start drinking the MAGA Kool-Aid, they start, you know, rooting for the bad guy. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to put it. You know what I mean? You guys we have a rapist in the Oval Office. I mean, and who is your president, who's elected for y'all? But because I guess that's not even the biggest gripe. They have been pushing Trump himself has been pushing Russian propaganda. Like his whole media company that he has, that it just pushes the stuff like that. Dark market stuff. Where he gets mail order brides like that Annabelle looking Melania. Anyway, but this is serious business. This is serious business. When Trump was in first administration, he gave Ukraine, what I mean, to Russia. It was so obvious. The first thing he did, right, when he met with Putin, never forget this, is he went against our own intelligence agencies, against the CIA, against the FBI, and against the warnings of the NSA, and against the director of the NSA, National Security Agency, that is, and against the cyber intelligence community, right, of our own. government, of our own intelligence agencies, he went against them and he said, "I don't believe you guys. I believe Putin." When Putin said he was not responsible for any kind of hackers in any type of election interference. I want to ask MAGA people, how does Trump backing up Putin and trusting Putin more than our intelligence agencies, more than the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA, about this particular subject? You know what I mean? How does that help American people? I mean, and how does this? And he did this in front of the international community, right? In front of journalists when he was asked about the election interference about Russia. He said, "I don't believe those guys." Putin said he didn't do it, so I believe him, right? How does that look to the rest of the world? I mean, again, I want to ask Americans, how does that help American people? How is that for America's best interest? I mean, how is that defending our Constitution, defending our sovereignty by disrespecting our own intelligence communities? I mean, at the same time, you know what I mean? I know things aren't like it used to be, and there's a lot of treachery and deceiving is also sarcasm is also what some people might find as a form of intelligence if you're deceiving people. But it comes at the account of transparency and truth and righteousness, right? And leading by example, right? So I don't think it does very much help in the end. So I don't believe in that argument. But moreover, um, when you talk about how disrespectful it looked, it empowered kind of Putin to do what he was gonna do. I mean, then when you add to the account when you add to it how he decided to also empower Putin's rhetoric against the Ukrainians that led to the systemic killing of them, pushing them back to Ukraine, and then cutting out aid for Ukraine when they became a war when they were escalating to the war because the fact that he didn't want Ukraine to go into NATO, you know, and you know Zelensky couldn't promise him that, so then Trump was like, "Well, we're gonna cut off aid for you because there's no reason to be paying them, giving them any aid." It's ridiculous, but anyway, that led to Russia being empowered, with the rhetoric, and especially if you got the backing of a U.S. president. I mean, what can stop you, right? You know what I mean? Just ask Netanyahu. I mean, from Israel. When you get the media, which is what is more important here, is the media, right? And the media is what drives the attention of the masses. The masses is what drives the elections, right? So Russian propaganda. You know what I mean? And so why did Trump want to avoid this so much in the first Trump administration? That he did it, that even Mark Davis went to jail for not collaborating with the FBI about this because it was helping Trump's campaign. I mean, and it's like, you know, if you start looking at Trump like a Russian-backed regime, then it starts making a whole lot more sense. I mean, as to why his people didn't want to, collaborate with the FBI, why they wanted to hide the fact that they knew about the Russian propaganda and the Russian interference in the 2016 election, and which led to the Robert Mueller investigation, which I read that Trump wanted to bypass, or he wanted to downplay, firing the director and all that stuff because he wanted to get rid of the investigation into the Russian collusion. That's the reason why he fired him, why he tried to fire him in the first time, but he couldn't. So the reason that they told the masses, because it's like, oh, you don't want them looking into you. You know what I mean? That's the reason why. But the reason that they told the everybody else was that it was because of how they mishandled the Hillary Clinton email investigation. You know what I mean, and that was just a front. You understand what I'm saying? The real reason was because he didn't want them looking into him. That's why he was fired as deputy of the FBI, right? Um, and so, I freaking say that the whole email Hillary Clinton is also Russian propaganda. it was used as a front to say that that's what the Russian propaganda, that's what the focus was on, instead of the interference with Trump's election that they try to hide. But then when Trump got elected, he wanted to fire the FBI agent. Why? Because they were looking into his case. And they said, well, you can't tell the public that the reason why you're firing him is because they're looking into you. I mean, that makes you guilty. I mean, isn't that the definition of you're guilty? Like, that's the most, I mean, crazy shit. Like, you're obviously guilty if you're trying to not have transparency, not have justice, or whatever, checks and balances. So what does he do? He says, no, we're gonna fire him on the fact that. Sorry about that. We're gonna fire him on the fact that he botched the investigation, the email investigation of Hillary Clinton, and so that's why we're gonna fire him, right? And so because of that, they fired the director of the FBI, and now he just put a new director, right? Another stooge, another guy who, by the way, is probably gonna cause more damage, over time. Is gonna cause way more damage to American people and justice and stuff, and the whole thing, make a mockery of the whole thing. Every person he's appointed to these roles are not candidates that are qualified. They're not candidates who have gotten there because of some dedication to it, or some great patriotism. It's simply because they are stooges for him, and they will look the other way. They will turn a blind eye to him, or because of other reasons. All right, just wanted to say that. When's the protest? Because they're holding protests in Georgia. So when are we going to get in for all the violations of the